Ever since man first stepped out from the sea, they always gazed back. Tales, legends, myths, and warnings of what lay below the surface. Creatures half woman and half fish, monstrosities with thousands of arms, beasts the size of islands. Sailors and fishermen alike all have stories of their own encounters with things under the waves. Lived to tell the tale. My grandfather was one of those few people until the lights came again. Years ago, when my grandfather was just a young lad, his family moved across the sea to a little coastal town with no name. It was new, fresh, with plenty of fish and sunlight for everyone. But the voyage was not. For days, the ship was plagued by storms and rough seas. A sickness had spread amongst the passengers and crew. A sickness had spread amongst the passengers and crew. Whispers grew of a doomed voyage, of new land never to be seen. My grandfather's mother was one of the first to die to the sickness. They were still too far out to sea, so her body was cast overboard. Every day, another body and another person fell sick. To escape the dread that infected everyone, my grandfather created himself a perched high on the center mast. To keep himself from falling due to the storm, he tied a sturdy rope around his waist, which he also used to lower himself to the deck whenever his hunger grew too strong. Every day, he stayed up in that cubby, ignoring his grief and fear, gazing out at the dark waters, eagerly hoping to one day see the green of land. The crew had become skeletal, and the passengers even more so. My grandfather had no idea if his father and siblings still lived. Hiding himself away from everyone, he lost count of how many days they had been at sea, and now his bones stuck out and his clothes hung heavy. This night was one of the few calm ones. Stillness resting in the air.
Closer.
Below him, my grandfather
Keep your eyes peeled.
pacing along the deck, but he did not look down. Instead, he looked out, watching the water and the twinkling stars. Then he saw it. There, right on the horizon, a black solid mass. It started to grow closer and closer, and he could make out a yellow lantern light. It was land, their land. Finally, after months of heartache and struggle, their journey's end was finally in sight. My grandfather opened his mouth to call out when another sight caught his gaze. Slowly, almost unnoticeable, specks of glittering green light started to appear in the water around the ship. They twinkled like stars, but the water started to glow a sickly green. My grandfather watched, mesmerized, as more and more green glowing orbs circled the ship, filling the water. The people below on deck began to notice as well, all of them stopping and peering over the edge to get a closer look. The silence of the night was thick, and the sound of the waves was gone. Now, all that could be heard was the beating of one's own heart. My grandfather leaned forward, one hand holding the mast to keep himself from falling, and gazed down at the water below. The green orbs now had shape, and they clung to the side of the ship in thick groups. The light flickered and images grew sharper. He saw his mother first. Her body clung to the side of the ship, one hand dug into the wet wood, while the other reaching upwards, her fingers like claws. Even from this distance, he could see her milky eyes and how they fixed on him. Then he heard her voice. Jacob, come to me. Jacob, there's nothing for you on land. There is only the sea. Come to me, Jacob, she wailed, reaching out to her oldest child as he sat high above her. Then he saw his youngest sister, and his brother, his uncle, his cousin, his father, his grandmother. They all clung to the side of the ship, glowing and crying out for him, begging him to join them. He did not feel it when they let go of the mast. His body fell slowly, as if he were a feather. He could see his family's arms opening up for him, their white eyes wide and unblinking. He could see the forms of the sailors jumping from the deck, being caught by other illuminated forms before disappearing below the waves. Dark forms meeting the bright light, extinguished almost as soon as they touched. Then the rope went taut. He was snapped out of his stupor violently, the rope digging into his waist and cutting his skin. He flailed his arms, trying to remember what he had been doing. He looked above him, seeing his cubby and the rope meant to keep him safe. Then he looked down. The forms of his family no longer looked as they did before. The green light grew harsher, hurting his weary eyes. Their skin was riddled with holes, where fish and creatures alike had dug into them. Hair was missing in clumps from their heads. Their mouths were stained black from the sickness that took them, and their white eyes glared in hate and anger. Their talon-like fingers reached for him, their sharp black nails inches from his kicking legs. My grandfather, horrified at the image of his decaying family, grabbed the rope and with all the strength he had left, pulled himself back to the safety of his hideaway. He curled into a ball, allowing the tears that he had been holding back to spill over his cheeks. His grief came in like a tidal wave, and he closed his eyes and succumbed to his sorrow. Though his eyes were closed, he still seen the green light just beyond his eyelids. The light only faded with the arrival of another. Soft, warm, yellow light began to shine, slowly overtaking the harsh green. My grandfather waited until the yellow light had been there for hours before he dared to open his eyes. The shoreline was now very close, and he could see the shapes of the houses and fields. Risking a glance below, he saw that there were no longer bodies in the water, and the deck was devoid of life. Once he mustered enough strength to climb down, he found that he was the only person left on the ship. It creaked and groaned, echoing the sound of what used to be. When the boat sailed close enough, he united a lifeboat and used his remaining strength to row to shore. As soon as it touched sand and the swaying of the sea no longer held him, my grandfather gave his exhaustion. For 5 days, he remained unconscious, taken in by the fishermen who had discovered him. A search party rowed out to the drifting vessel, hunting for other survivors, but they found absolutely nothing. Nothing, that is, except for deep, violent scratches, gouged all along the hull, where the solid timber had been torn completely away. He could never bring himself to speak of the other travelers. Fear had taken root in his heart, and he dared not repeat the horrors he witnessed that night. He grew up and carved out what life he could, but I always found him gazing at the water, searching for something that no one else could see. He finally told me the truth on the day that he passed. We sat on the bench, facing the sea, and the setting sun bleeding to our left, and a rising moon pulling at the tide to our right. His eyes flickered in the twilight, reflecting a faint, unnatural tint of green. As the tale unfolded, When he finished, he sent me to bed. He told me that after all these years, he wanted nothing more than to see his mother, sister, and brother, and to be returned with his long-lost family. It came as no surprise when my parents woke me up the next morning to tell me that Grandpa was gone. He had walked straight into the sea, leaving behind nothing but a sudden, brilliant flash of green.